Thank you for learning Siebel with the Siebel Hub. We have a unique, comprehensive and always up-to-date collection of Siebel CRM 2021 training classes. We can deliver live online and on-site training in the highest quality with the most experienced instructors. And we also offer a unique modular Siebel CRM 20 and 21 training. Follow the links in the description or on this slide to learn more and learn Siebel with the Siebel Hub. All right, so what's the plan for today? We have definitely one thing to talk about is the 21.6 Siebel CRM update, which was just released 3 days ago. And that's just in time for Siebel Friday, so thanks, Oracle. There's not really new features there, but there's a enhancement in the REST API, which is very interesting. So we're coming to that shortly. And I'm hoping for your input on this and for your thoughts. I have a few updates on things I've been tinkering with on GitHub. You know, devpops is a regular topic here. I've been working on some other GitHub project there and would like to share it with you. That's the topics for today. So really, it's a mix of things as usual. And so we start along. I'll just turn off my camera so it doesn't eat up the bandwidth for the audio. All right. So 21.6 is here. So has anyone downloaded it yet? So this is a list I compile for every release, and that's like the features I can find in Bookshelf and in the release notes and while installing them. So yeah, the first one is the Siebel Commerce REST API. That seems to be the product name that Oracle chose. And in the brackets it says DX4C. And I'm sure you know by now what DX4C is, but you might be like, DX for what? And what does it have to do with Siebel? So I think that's a discussion we are gonna enjoy. The REST API got some attention in general, so not just the opening of the Siebel order management stuff to the REST API for DX4C, but also loyalty business objects and services are now exposed to the REST API, and there was a parameter introduced just a short while ago, 21.3. It was called legacy, and now it's no longer called legacy. It's called match request format to make things generally more confusing, I guess. Then there's an upgrade to the MAF, the mobile application framework, which is used for building that wrapper app for Siebel mobile applications, where a lot of people think that's an app which runs Siebel, but it's just a wrapper for the browser. But that's got updated to 2.6.3. Then there's some bookshelf change, a minor one, and if you install 21.6, you get another fresh Tomcat update. 9.0.44 is the Tomcat delivered with 21.6. So what is the Siebel Commerce REST API? So maybe a little bit of hands up, virtual hands up. So order management users in the room, anyone? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so then if you're using Siebel Customer Order Management, along with all the options, product catalog, configurator, pricing, and so forth, it's a very complex framework and has, I'm just guessing, like 100, 100 workflow processes and a handful of very specialized business services, as you sure know, because if you work with that, you have much more exposure than I do. Actually, not new that you can call business services or even workflow processes through the Siebel REST API, but there have been some general enhancements and things that you need to do manually in order to, enhance the integration objects and whatnot. And Oracle has announced the support for DX4C a while ago. So that was in September last year in the virtual summit, where George Jacob announced the work on what's called DX4C, the Digital Experience for Communications, and that's the reason. Basically, that application or suite of applications is the reason why Oracle started beefing up the Siebel REST API and making it ready to be used heavily to build the shopping cart and product catalog and checkout and promotion functionality that is available in DX4C. So yeah, I'm following the link in my own slide to just get to the browser. Yeah, there it is. So that's the official Oracle product page for DX4C. So it doesn't say much about Siebel. So it shows the different areas of DX4C. And if you Google for DX4C and Siebel, then you find this PDF document, which is linked somewhere on the Oracle page. So let's just go there. This is an executive paper for DX4C, and there's a chapter applicability to Siebel customers, where Siebel is mentioned in that document. And I like the phrasing here that DX4C is a combination of a lot of technologies, including capabilities from Siebel. So they say here industry or key industry specific capabilities for Siebel, and specifically mention here that Siebel has been, or still is, I hope, the primary CX CRM platform running at scale in hundreds of tier 1, tier 2 communication service providers globally in the past 10 plus years. So that is true. No, that is like a lot of telcos are using Siebel CRM, and they are using order management. So now Oracle intends, obviously, to encourage those customers to adopt DX4C, but still, of course, Siebel is heavily ingrained in the infrastructure. It's mission critical. You cannot just rip and replace it. So Siebel is the backend for this functionality of DX4C. And as you know, the other part of that story is that Oracle has been reinventing the Siebel architecture to become cloud native. So the Siebel that Oracle runs as the backend for DX4C runs on Oracle Cloud, but not in your regular. It's not your regular Siebel servers. It's a rebuilt architecture that is called Siebel Cloud Native. And there has been a lot of presentations on that recently, and yeah, I would like to hear your general thoughts on this. So this is an interesting development. So now the on-premises Siebel has capabilities that support that come from Oracle building a cloud application with Siebel as the backend. So that's kind of a first in the 25 years of Siebel. So what do you think about it?
Alex, Guru here.
Hi, Guru.
Yeah. Alex, I was very keen on this delivery from Oracle. I was following it up for versions when they would release this functionality. But sorry to say, I was disappointed by this because there is no innovation in this. They have just exposed the existing code as REST, which we would have done without this title. And in fact, we are doing the same.
Yeah. Okay. So some disappointment here. So that's true. Actually, what you say. Oracle has been exposing existing workflow processes and business services with the REST APIs. Nothing that you couldn't do in earlier versions of Siebel.
Yes, and one more point is that whoever has worked on order management knows the pain regarding that with product customization and delay with respect to that. Without such any innovations, if we directly use this as a backend for any other internet applications like our portal or any website hosted applications, it would be very difficult if the performance issues are still there with order management flow.
Yeah, so yeah, everybody knows about these issues. I haven't actually seen DX4C really running, and not sure what Oracle does to, well, improve the performance or speed up Siebel. Of course, they have a lot of servers they can put it onto. They have the heaviest cloud servers they can use. So that's an advantage for Oracle, of course.
Yeah, because the product configuration part itself is tricky. If you do any product configuration change, your entire thing will be fetched from the database to load it onto the process memory. So there it takes time. Without having any innovation or any architectural change, this exposure seems to be of less use.
Yeah.
As of now.
Right. I would say performance-wise, if you consider the Siebel cloud native architecture, which I also have not seen, I've just seen presentations like everybody. But the scalability, of course, is much higher of cloud native because you can just spin up additional pods automatically if need be. So I think that's the advantage there for DX4C, that when there's a lot of load, then Siebel just scales out automatically. Or by Kubernetes, and that is my guess. So just of course guessing here. I haven't really got my hands dirty on neither on cloud native or DX4C. It's a product that's not available, not within my reach. But yeah, so thanks Guru for these insights. Yeah, anyone else want to share?
Maybe with the introduction of microservices, this might get resolved, but fingers crossed. I don't know when they will going to release that architecture.
And I think it's this DX4C's attempt to make a kind of create a kind of middle layer between Siebel and users, maybe to give a possibility to use not only Siebel as provider of data for DX4C, our solutions, maybe on cloud, on premise. So it's interesting.
Yeah, so
how it could be extendable.
Yeah, thanks, Alexei. So yeah, time will tell how this works out. So it's like the first surfacing of DX4C related innovation, let's call it that, from Oracle in the Siebel on-premises product. So that's the first, and probably we'll see more of that in the next month. Or yeah, let's see. Definitely interesting. So I was very intrigued by that, like you are. So yeah, here I have this. I'm quoting on this slide. I'm quoting the exact PDF. So yeah, that PDF I think is the most detailed you can find at the moment, along with, of course, the virtual summit presentations that Oracle has still public. So you can watch the videos or download the PDFs from these cloud native presentations that Oracle did last autumn. So yeah, it starts clicking together, so to speak. One thing I found during reading through the release notes for 21.6 is there are a lot of warnings there in the release notes if you upgrade to 21.6. So not an update, mind you. If you're on 17 or higher, you're updating. But when you're upgrading, then there's always that difference in upgrades to updates. An upgrade delivers the repository of that version and all the seed data and schema changes into your database. So if you upgrade to 21.6, you have the workflows enabled for that feature activated, even if you didn't have them activated before, like you're not using order management, you don't have these workflows activated. And the business services related to the workflows, and first and foremost, workflow process manager itself, are now seed data in the business service access list. You know that for REST API, if you want to call a business service, you have to put it in the business service access list with a responsibility. And I haven't done an upgrade yet to 21.6, so there hasn't been enough time, and it's just too fresh. But what Oracle warns us about here is that the upgrade will add the seed data, and as a result, you have Workflow Process Manager, among other business services, registered with Siebel Administrator, Web Anonymous User, and Web Registered User, 3 standard responsibilities. And you can imagine what that means if you then launch your application and an end user session wants to run a workflow and the end user doesn't have one of these 3 responsibilities. Yeah, you can imagine that what happens. So Oracle warns you about removing the business services again or adding the customer responsibilities to the list in case you're using, you want to use that, let's say, order management API with REST. So that's an interesting side note here, and I think that's a very good caveat from Oracle in the release notes, and shows us one more time it's very important to read those release notes. Okay.
Only thought so. I don't like the fact that it adds in the business services. By default, it then says remove them if you want to. I don't like that way around. I'd rather them document it and say, if you want to use this functionality, then add these in and then review the impact of doing so.
Yes, yeah, sure. But it's only an upgrade, mind you. So it's thanks, James, and hi, James, by the way.
Hi, Alex. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just for upgrade scenarios, like you upgrade from IP 15 or 16, and there's a kind of it's kind of interesting how, let's say, 4 years have elapsed since 17, and the bigger repository changes have been transported piecemeal style into using the post-install database installer or post-install update wizard or the optional repository upgrade. So Oracle pushes in the mandatory stuff using the mandatory post-installer wizard and allows customers to choose the non-mandatory stuff using repository upgrade. And speaking of the repository upgrade, I always run it just for fun. So here we go. I have this database which was 20.6, so it's an update, not an upgrade. And I updated to 21.6, and I ran the repository upgrade, which is optional, and it gives you that in Siebel update workspace because it was 20.6, of course, includes everything that over the past year has been added. So there's a lot of this clinical and ERM stuff that Oracle has added or modified over the course of the last year. And let me just sort by object type. Yeah, and you see, I think I haven't seen those in the 21.5. So these are the workflow processes from order management, a lot of them. So I was very intrigued. I say, oh, wow, they must have, well, insert, first and foremost, that's not a new workflow, but insert means it's like now active. So because it's deactivated by default when you're not using it, in my database wasn't used, so it's inactive. So it gets activated and was like, oh boy, they must have made a lot of changes to the workflow processes. And don't know if you know this, but Siebel Tools has quite a cool feature, so you can compare different workspaces. So that integration workspace version 1, I can compare with, let's say, my main 0. And that freaks out Siebel Tools a lot, so it will take like a few minutes before it comes back, because there's I don't know, 200 objects there. But eventually it comes back, and then you can really see what's the difference between the main version 0 workflow process version and the new version that is delivered through that optional repository upgrade. And yeah, let's just let it run and then come back to it later and see what happens. Okay, yeah, while this is running, another thing I found in Bookshelf. So when you Let me open Bookshelf real quick. So of course we have a new Bookshelf version, 21.6, and yeah, it's the first thing I do compulsively. So when Bookshelf is out, there, take a look at this at the guide listing and check out all the guides that have been revised and check out the what's new feature, because of course there's a lot of information there. And while scrolling to the list, this catches my eye. Like, this is the longest Bookshelf title ever. Deploying Siebel CRM using Docker image on Oracle Cloud Infrastructure with vanilla database UI. Okay, that was like, okay, that's a new guide. And click it, and then that's not a Bookshelf guide at all. That's if so, maybe some of you recognize it. That's the tutorial that always floats around with the Oracle Marketplace offering of a Linux instance which has Jenkins on it, and it can deploy a Siebel on Docker environment in under 45 minutes. So I think I've demonstrated this once on not sure on a Siebel Friday, kind of blurry, but if you have ever worked with those Docker container instances on OCI, you can choose empty database or sample database, and that's the tutorial that goes along with it. So that is good. It's now in Bookshelf because it was the previous the previous place was OLL, the Oracle Learning Library, which nobody really knows about a lot. So yeah, that's a tiny little change, but just documentation. So let's check out tools. Oh, you, Nick, your microphone's open. We can hear everything. Okay. Yeah. So there's that. And what else do we have? Yeah, I've been updating the update path. So still mandatory to run the MDE. Of course, it's the MDE, the modular deployment engine, doing the update. You get your binaries updated. It introduces the version updates of Tomcat and Zookeeper if you're crossing 21.4. And if you come from an older version like 21.1 or below, then you get that MDE topology update, so the new unified directory structure for enterprise server components. So all this has, of course, the more versions you're spanning, the more changes are introduced. So that's I think that's a good reason to kind of, well, consider updating more regularly. I know that's not a popular opinion because updates are hard. You have to do all the testing. Still mandatory, run the post-install database update, either automatically or manually. I personally think this has much improved now and is quite stable. So I tended to run it manually and it run into errors, but now the last few updates I ran it automatically and didn't run into issues. So that's good. And that repository upgrade is, of course, optional, and it doesn't change anything. You get that integration workspace, and you can pick and choose, sift stuff out of it, or rebase and deliver the whole lot. But it's your choice. And then we have administrative changes that might need application and some configuration instructions, especially for the Commerce API. Yeah, so make sure you take in the release notes. And there's that's the most recent version of my DR update process diagram. So there's a very fast track, just to run MDE, include the post-install database updater, and if you have no repository stuff to do and no admin changes, you're done. Yeah, but of course there could be repository stuff, then you need to, well, apply, test, and deliver. If you have administrative changes like updating the 64-bit Java for IMAP POP3, etc., then of course you have some additional tasks to do. And the RR update is, you run MDE plus post-install database update. but the repository upgrade has run on the DR, so you deliver those changes using the migration application. And then you might have some admin changes and you're done. So yeah, I've been refining these diagrams. Would like to get your feedback a little bit on it. Would you agree? Are they correct, or is there anything you would add? Any steps that you encountered in recent updates?
What I found in updates that maybe after 21.4 or 5, there is no more use of local Java subsystems. So whenever you want to use Java, you have to use in a container. It's no more possible to use local Java, and no more sense to do this. And many
okay.
business services, some standard business services getting to use it. For example, EI XSLT service surprisingly started to use Java. It needs Java and it runs Java inside Tomcat. If you don't have it set, then your XSLT service will not work.
Oh, yeah, you put a comment on the Siebel Hub. I saw that. Thanks for this. So what you're saying is the EI XSLT service is now using.
Yes, it requires. Yes, it
it's now
requires
running
Java.
on the Tomcat. It's now running on the SES Tomcat, the Java
Correct.
64 subsys. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. But of course, let's say the classic business services like EI, Siebel Adapter, Workflow Process Manager, they sure run inside the Siebel server. So it's
this outsourcing Java. Just wanted to note that outsourcing Java in Tomcat just opens, I don't know, unlimited possibilities to extend the Siebel as much as we have.
Yeah, that's actually that's quite cool. I like it a lot. So I've been starting to use Java Business Services a lot more. But your observation implies that this business service now has a Java library and is a Java business.
Yes, and it requires a Java subsystem set similar like Java 64.
Yeah.
On a thin client you will not note it, but on a dedicated client you will.
On your on the dedicated web or developer web client, yeah, you need to point it to a Tomcat. Oh, okay, yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I think regarding the diagram, it's the administrative stuff. I think where it fits in. So, but I will make a note. Yeah, and, that sure is interesting and interesting. Yeah, interesting move from Oracle, and of course a very good decision to use the 64-bit Tomcats as a kind of running the workloads instead of the 32-bit Siebel server components. Yeah, so you've seen Siebel Tools came back with the comparison window. That's always a sight for sore eyes. And let's see, these are the applets application. Let's find view. There we go. So yeah, just check the first one, and then yeah, I can feel the disappointment level rising a bit because like, oh, these workflows haven't been modified at all. It's just they have been activated. So inactive is now no instead of yes. So that's kind of the non-mandatory change that Oracle considers, because repository upgrade is non-mandatory. Of course, if you like to use the feature in 21.6, you have to activate the workflow. Of course, you have already activated that workflow because that is like you're using custom order management. Well, that's interesting. All these workflows just have one change in the flag, and yeah, there's that. Another fact we find out about using Siebel tools. So yeah, has anyone used that comparison wizard before for workspaces?
All the time. Use it all the time.
All the time, yeah. That's cool. Yeah,
It's not so good in web tools, though. I really haven't seen a good.
Yeah, there's no such thing in web tools, really. Not yet. Time will show if that's within the 100% parity bracket, which I hope it is, because it would be rather cool to have it in a browser and maybe export. Well, one can wish for something, maybe an export feature, that is a project I've been working on for quite a while, and I've been a bit reluctant to show it to greater public. Let me just follow that link here. It's on. If you follow me on GitHub, it's in the Black Sheep CRM GitHub. I call it Enterprise A Gogo. That is a pun that few people will understand. And it's a tool that implements automating an enterprise configuration using the undocumented REST API for SMC. So please keep in mind, this is a purely educational example. And if I say educational example, that's exactly that. Use it for your education, but don't use it in real production or any other environments that are mission critical. I was encouraged to do this by actually the fact that Oracle also puts out on public display an automation for setting up an enterprise, which is on Oracle's GitHub. So, and that is found if you ever work with those Docker examples from Duncan. So there is somewhere in there. I might not find it immediately. Let's go for the classic one. It's manage, automate architecture, SMC. Yeah, there's like create SAI, create SAI profile, server profile, deploy enterprise, deploy SAI, where, well, you find curl commands and JSON stuff to which calls into the REST API, the Cloud Gateway REST API. That's basically what Oracle has not yet publicly announced, but well, there they are. These scripts are there, and they're used when you run these Docker scripts. And so I felt encouraged to do this, which is a front end, very primitive with my limited abilities. Built an HTML page where I can, well, let's see if it's still running. So, which I put into the SMC. So if you download it from GitHub, you just place it in the SMC folder. So it's hosted on Tomcat now. And it's a bunch of JavaScript and a bit of HTML. And you can either, well, you can go to parameters and, well, obviously override these default parameters. And this is all you would have to enter when you do the SMC stuff manually. So you still have to provide the parameters. But you can save it to a file, which I did. And so you can import these files. So now, let's see, is that correct? Yeah. So yeah, so now I have all the parameters. Let's say what Siebel server do I want? What components do I want? What component groups, etc. And then I can, well, verify it. And it says gateway registry not found. So this is fine because that's like not a boot. It's a completely fresh install. It's not even bootstrapped. So the verification is not failing. It's like, okay, we have to start somewhere. And you can start it, which I will do in a moment. And you can dry run it. And the dry run generates the curl commands with all the necessary input. So yeah, can you really configure an enterprise just with curl calls? And the answer is you can. So I've exported this here into basically it's a CMD file for Windows, but of course you will find a way to run it on Linux. And so you see the first bootstrap step, the second bootstrap step, and it's all about making a REST call to Cloud Gateway and sending in the correct payload and getting the results. So this is the whole, if you run that command, at the end you will have a Siebel enterprise and on the command line. And if I run it here, let me just load it again, just make sure. Oh, sorry, that. Importing that enterprise definition here. Now let's verify again, and if I hit start, the JavaScript now runs all the steps and gives a visual feedback where it is. So as you can see, I'm preparing for the Cloud Gateway REST API to become public, and that of course will speed up enterprise deployments a lot. So yeah, it's creating the gateway registry now, creating the enterprise profile and deploying it. And of course, once it gets to the Siebel server deployment, that will take a while. These things can take up to 10 minutes to deploy. So, what do you think? Have you played around with this before? Have you found it on GitHub? Or?
No, but looks like something I'd want to do on my free time.
Yeah, that is what my boss pays me for, to tinker around.
Yeah, like similar to this, I have used, but not the curl with method. I've used the third-party Python applications to edit the Zookeeper database. So there you can go and edit manual parameters manually by navigating to the structure, or you can import a file, comma separated file with parameter names and components name to update.
Okay, so you're directly writing to Zookeeper.
Yeah, but parameters which do not require a bounce will get the immediate effect, but some parameters do require a component bounce, so those will have to have a bounce.
Yeah, of course, like they do. Yeah, so yeah, these we can do REST calls to change parameters, and you can talking to Zookeeper directly. That of course that's also not supported by Oracle, right?
I tried it once with Zookeeper. It works, but if you just make mistake, as I did, like put some value instead of complex objects, then all enterprise was dead.
Take a backup first.
Yes, I had to carefully get back to Zookeeper and just restore the setting, and it was alive again. But it was very scary.
Yeah.
Another non-documented, but this step was mentioned in the Oracle site. There is a part of a document. It was mentioned there. You can use ZKLI shell script that is there in the Zookeeper folder.
Yes,
so
it is what I
did. The Zookeeper client that comes with Zookeeper out of the box. Yeah, that's command line utility. But I doubt that Oracle supports, like, say, write operation, unless they really tell you in Oracle support, like they tell you sometimes delete something, delete when you delete a server, you remove a server deployment. Often it stays there, and then there's a support ticket where they say, okay, go in ZK client and delete that manually. But apart from that, well, it's very, very bold step, to talk to Zookeeper directly. So what utility you mentioned?
There was one utility in GitHub. Any utility you can download that will give you a GUI client for the Zookeeper.
Oh, you use one of these, the many GUIs for Zookeeper.
Yes.
You want to share which one you're using?
That I need to check. It is an exe file. I have to check the GitHub link and give it to you.
I used command line ZK clear. This is out of the box delivered.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, of course, if you go to like the likes of GitHub and search for Zookeeper,
you get many. Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff. Yeah.
But make sure you have to take the snapshot and all the version 2 folder backup.
Yeah, take a backup before you do any of this, and always, we are on the record. This will be on YouTube, so if you do any interaction with Zookeeper outside of what Oracle tells you to do is okay, you will not have any support from Oracle. Yeah. So yeah, I've been using some of these. Yeah, 11. Well, the Zookeeper itself, but there's a lot of clients and wrappers that you can do. So if you can send me the one you using, I'll add it to my personal list of tools. Yeah.
Sure, Alex. I'll ping you on Twitter or email you.
Yeah. Thanks. So a lot of people have been creating clients for Zookeeper. It's crazy. Yeah.
I thought of building my own, but there were many available on internet.
Yeah, I think that train has left the station. So well, maybe it might be good exercise. Yeah, if you learn Zookeeper, probably there's a tutorial where some people, let's create a Zookeeper client and then upload it to GitHub. Okay, right. So yeah, that's interesting. So the my own implementation enterprise gogo is using REST calls to the Cloud Gateway API. These REST calls are, by the way, the same that the SMC does when you manually click in the SMC. So that's kind of a safe way, but still, if you ever intend to use any of this, keep in mind it's educational only until Oracle publishes the Cloud Gateway API. So let's let it run. So you can see the benefit is, of course, you can do something else. You can chat with friends while this is running. See what news are for the Siebel Hub. You sure are following the Siebel Hub and seeing all the blog posts, including the one for 21.6. And just wanted to point out there's a 21.6 update summary, which of course has a bit of overlap to what we discussed today. But that's the update summary. So you might point to your colleagues to it. And subscribe, like, and share, and all that kind of stuff to help us, become YouTube celebrities. And the Siebel Friday replays are, of course, also available. So if you have missed the Siebel Friday, there's always a replay. Yeah, so that's the Siebel Hub YouTube channel. Then just Siebel Hub itself. I want to point out we have that unique catalog of Siebel CRM 21 training. And for example, that modular workshop is, we often get questions for, do you have any recorded trainings that people can just use right away? And that's the modular Siebel CRM workshop. And just recently, I've been updating some chapters. For example, architecture chapters have been updated to 21.2. So there's now an MDE chapter. Tools and workspaces is a complete new recording for 21.4 because there was a lot of stuff in 21.4 for Siebel Web Tools. Migration applications current with 21.2. So of course, if there's no change since the recording, the other topics are current with 20.9, and of course they apply to 21.6 as well, because test automation, for example, there has been no new features since 20.9. So make sure everyone in your team is aware of this and other training offerings in case you need to train your teams on Siebel 21. Richard and I were working hard to make this the best available Siebel training on the planet, and might sound a little bit arrogant, but it is really the best available Siebel 21 and the most up-to-date training you can have at the moment. Okay, so that's the Siebel Hub. Commercial that has to be in here, and the finale of Siebel Friday is always what happened in devpops, that utility that we have been creating. Slava and Jason and me, we have started in beginning of the year to put together utility library, and that's also on GitHub. So let me just go to that machine where I have GitHub open. So it's the devpops repository, and it's currently 21.6 is available. So so what you get in 21.6? A few cosmetic changes, a few bug fixes, and Redwood banner. So you can have Redwood before Oracle ships a style, and there's a property set viewer. And in 21.7 for 21.7, I'm planning, at least one enhancement, which I call Psych Map. So Site Map, but it gets you psyched. And that's a long time goal of mine to have the sitemap more accessible in the application and also more intelligent. So that's kind of a long time project, and I've putting the code into devpops recently. So let me just show how the first like prototype looks like. Okay, it's already open. So yeah, so if you right click the sitemap button, you get the menu style sitemap. So it reads the sitemap, so you have to navigate to it once. I didn't find another way of reading the sitemap. You have to navigate to it once, and then it enables this menu. So of course, you can type to search like manifest, and still working. You see, weeding out the kinks, but you can filter, and then when you see there's some recently used views you can collapse. If you click a view, it will make it into the recently used list on top, so you can easily go back. So there's a business service simulator. So all the kind of stuff is in very, very easy reach. And there's an option, so you can go for flat mode, which, let's see, looks more like the original sitemap, but still has a recently used list and has a search, of course. Yeah, so that's things I've been working on in my spare time. I got that going for me. I still feel fine. How about devpops? Is any devpops user? Anybody looked into devpops recently?
Need
To
more
me, it
playtime.
Oh, wow. Sorry, say again. Yeah, who goes first?
I just need more playtime. I don't got it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks, Nick. Jason, is that you?
Oh, yes, I went off mute. I was just going to let you know I did reinstall it very recently. I've been testing it out. I mean, it's a fantastic tool. And it's been a long time goal of mine to get this in the hands of our development team.
Okay, good to hear. Yeah. So, and yeah, how about that site map? Is that Psych Map? Is that like useful, or is it just a waste of time?
Well, like with many of your utilities, it's how it should have been implemented in the first place.
Yeah, that's my goal. Okay, and still the long-term goal is to sell it to Oracle and retire. Oracle, are you listening? Today we don't. Okay. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, check out GitHub. Check out the Siebel Hub, and yeah, Frank has a question on the Psych Map. Yeah, you have to open the standard sitemap at least once. So I can show that. So if I hit reset, then it basically deletes all local data. So like when you have modified responsibilities or so, it's otherwise you get errors when you click the links. It saves it locally, the local storage once. But if I click reset, it gives you a message. So now if I try to open it, see no sitemap data found. Okay, so I have to navigate to the regular sitemap, and so it's literally waiting for that page to appear, and now it has consumed it entirely and parsed it and saved it away. So now the Psych Map. If you right click, so now it's working. It has deleted the recent views as well, so it's starting fresh. So let's just visit the account list, and now you get the recent views again. So of course the style is not perfect now, but it's getting somewhere. And I like the menu style a bit more. So that's where I worked recently. The sitemap style, nothing new there apart from the recently used list. Right, so if you want to educate yourself about what you can do with OpenUI, even if you stretch your permissions a little bit, then that's again all the stuff I put out is educational. Yeah, don't expect it to work on your environment. Just a word of warning there, as usual. And yeah, anything else to say about 21.6 or stuff you find on GitHub? The Enterprise A gogo has finished, and I've added some let's say some features like it creates a migration profile, it deploys the migration app and creates a connection. So you have a running migration app. It optimizes components that you choose for manual start. It sets your safe mode credentials because admins tend to forget to set the safe mode stuff. So yeah, you're all set. So now there's links to go to. So SMC, I can log into SMC and everything's deployed, right? I have a link to the migration app. Let's log in there quickly. Yeah, so I got my dev connection here because that's a dev environment. Yeah, and of course the application is running, so Siebel server is up and running. All right. There's this demo. So yeah, call centers starting up. Running Siebel Enterprise. Getting close to that one button click thingy. So yeah, it seems to be like those meetings are always like defaulting to 1 hour. If you want to hang out a little bit longer and have a chat, I'm happy to do it. Happy to have a chat.